But these are important, these awards. I don't want you to think that just because if you blew up our solar system alone, you wouldn't be able to find us or any of human history with the naked eye. But from our perspective, this is huge.
Would you like me to give you the list of MVPs since 2010? Is that what you want me to do? Is that what you need? Well, you've come to the right place because I'm about to give it to you. Since 2010, the list of MVPs are as follows. The highest scoring team in a fantasy season: Orlando in 2010, Joe in 2011, more on that in a bit, 2012, Paul, 2013, Eric, 2014, Paul, 2015, Team Bundy. I said 2015. That's how powerful our season was. 2016, Eric. 17, 18, Jay, his consecutive MVPs. 2019, Andy. 2020, 2021, Paul, and 2022, Eric is, of course, the league MVP. Now let's backtrack a bit because, of course, the last few seasons, the NFL has implemented an extra game into the fantasy league. Joe is, ironically, the highest scoring team of all time, at least within a particular season. We've gone through this before. This was the 2011 season where we had 8 teams, which is probably the only way that Joe can manage to win a fantasy championship. We have to kill 2 people. Only then can Joe rise to the top. Joe was able to score 1554 fantasy points. Now, I just want to put that into perspective a little bit more because over the last few seasons that we have had this extra game, since 2019, I believe, I don't even know if it was 2019, it might have been 2020, I'm not even sure, but since the last few seasons, Andy getting the MVP in 2019, 1404, Paul, 1435 in 2020, 1497 in 2021, and Eric falling short of Paul's record, which is the brand new record. I do not think it is I don't think it's legitimate to consider Joe's 1554 as the highest point total in fantasy history, because although I do believe that championships matter, Orlando, if I'm not mistaken, won the championship that year, when you start to look at things that, you know, that we can stack up and that we can quantify as points, I don't think we can look at it that parallel to the seasons that we have now, with 1 more week and 2 more teams back into the league. That changes the draft dramatically. It changes the waiver order dramatically. And plus, it was 2011. So Paul has the record of the highest scoring fantasy season of all time, his 2021 season. Of course, Paul did not win a fantasy championship, so that will go as just a really good season, but it won't really mean much in the grand scheme of things. Of course, Eric now with his 1452 is still in this, and he is the MVP. Why was he the MVP? Well, he picked up Jalen Hurts, and you know, you all remember that I said he picked up Jalen Hurts a little too early, which I think most fantasy managers in that position would probably agree, but maybe Eric knew something that we didn't. I honestly don't think that he thought that Jalen Hurts would have this good of a season, but he is definitely the number 1 reason for Eric's point total. Of course, Justin Jefferson being the 2nd ranked wide receiver, AJ Brown being the 5th ranked wide receiver. You have Mark Andrews, who hasn't had the strongest last 2 months of the season, but he's still the number 2 ranked tight end and the number 1 ranked kicker in Daniel Carlston. So Eric's team has achieved what he has done 2 times previously winning it in 2013 and in 2016. Well, even though I've read you the list, let's tally it up and see what the history shows us. Paul leads the way with MVPs with 4. Eric coming in at second with 3. Jay coming in at third with 2. Then it's a 4-way tie between Team Bundy, Andy, Orlando, and Joe. MVPs are important and MVPs are a thing. I have said it for years in this fantasy league, and I will say it once again. I do not believe that we have to play in a money league. I do not believe that that's what we have to do in order to legitimize this fantasy season. What we can do is something much more original, something much more customized, and much more true to the fantasy league that we have formulated here for about over 15 years at this point. We can give a jersey to the championship, to not the championship team, to the MVP team, because they did the best during the fantasy season. Fate or luck maybe didn't side with them as much, because obviously Eric, how many games did Eric win? Eric won 7 games this season. Was it 7? Let's see how many games did Eric win this season. Eric won 8 games this season. He had a very tough go about a month ago, losing games in which he still was able to score a good amount, but his opponent scored a little bit more than he did. So serendipity goes into this, but we understand that a high-scoring team is a team that drafted well, a team that made good decisions, a team that made good waiver wire pickups. That's the thing with Eric's team this year. He drafted well, or at least the players that he had drafted, his top players, performed for him, with exception of Najee Harris. And Najee Harris, I mean, wasn't even that terrible. He's had a few performances where he's kind of picked it up, but it's kind of like high single digits, maybe 8 or 9. He's definitely not a number 1, but the addition of a Kenneth Walker in the heat of the season was enough to give Eric the edge as far as running backs, and of course, Jamal Williams. What else are you going to say? League MVP. League MVP.